I,
I've got a lemon head candy in my mouth, and it's been like a decade since I've had one of those. I don't know if you.
okay.
It's a childhood favorite here in the U.S. Anyway.
Lead to thing. Happy another Sim here and a happy OSM.
Right. Yeah. Well, how's the Cloud Native Islamabad going?
I just starting to create a meetup group and planning. I think planning now to start some events there. So after the KubeCon, just waiting to KubeCon to be end and then going forward. Very interesting. I see a service mesh certification topic here. Really interesting for that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We'll talk about it. These lemon heads are really sour. And good morning. Well, yeah, I guess good evening to everyone else. So, Michael, hopefully this is the last time I do this. But you said Michael that's fine?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Michael is fine and Michael is fine.
Okay.
Michael is really fine.
Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, so I know you did this on, I think it was the Wednesday call, but we'll have a little bit of a different group of folks here on this call.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, introduce, say hi.
Yeah. So hi, my name's Michael or Michael or Michu. I'm Swiss, living in Norway. I'm a technical solution architect and developer. I work at a Norwegian company as a consultant, and now I'm working at client, a customer, and working with POC on Console Connect. So that was my first experience with Console Connect. I did some work with Istio 1.0 a long time ago, like a year, and so I'm looking forward to be able to collaborate and still contribute and being part of this very nice community.
Yeah, it's awesome. A year in ServiceMesh land is like it's like a dog year. It's like 7 years.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Well, Michael, we just had well, and I guess we'll talk about this today, but I can't remember if on the same day that we were talking, Open Service Mesh might have been announced that same day.
Yeah, it was a day. I think it was yesterday, wasn't it? Well, maybe it was the same day as well. Just yes.
Yeah. So there's more coming too. I get a chuckle out of it every time I think about a new one coming out. So part of the reason I get a chuckle is because I had so many discussions with people about the notion that it's a one-horse show, that it's sort of Istio and only Istio, or that like the generic term service mesh. Actually, I can't tell you how many times I've spoken with people where they will be saying the words service mesh, and actually in their mind there's no distinction. They actually mean Istio. And so like clearly I like me some Istio, or so, but I also recognize that that the world needs, not everyone needs the same thing. You need some choice, and Nikhil might talk to us today about some of that choice. So that's good. We kind of track a landscape here. I'm gonna start to share, get the meeting up and going. right. Very good. Welcome, everyone. Briefly, some housekeeping items. And that is to say that we hold our community meetings, well, all of our meetings publicly and record them. And so you'll be YouTube famous, even if you use swear words. And so that's fine. Just a disclaimer. We always, in the most loving of ways, ask someone who's on the call for the first time to awkwardly talk about themselves. And so, Mr. Villa, Edwin, you are our next winner. So Edwin, it's great to have you on the call. If you're in a position to be able to talk a little bit, it would be fantastic for you to introduce yourself to the community.
Yeah, hello guys. And I'm new here. I just found out this community this week, and it's been great, I guess. I've been helping in one of two teams, and that's it.
Yeah, and by the way, just a little factoid, I think for everyone else. So one, Edwin goes by Edwin. He doesn't abbreviate that to Ed. Moreover, there's one other Edwin Villa in the world, but we're talking to the real Edwin here. So turns out this week I made two friends. I made two Edwin friends. So anyway, thanks for introducing Edwin. It's nice. All right. And then also just, I don't think I've ever really mentioned this on the call. Which is to say that Mikhail was able to share video for a little while, which is very nice. I feel like I got to know him twice as well in that time frame. So anytime anyone wants to pop on video, please do. Please always turn it on. I'm usually only half shaven and half coherent on the calls, and so if you're only, if you're mostly dressed, then, share video. Anyway, it's just nice to get to know people. Having said all of that, we got a lot of things to talk about today, which is great. Everyone on the call should, or I know has access to these meeting minutes, which means that you can go ahead and plop your name into the meeting minutes and kind of help take notes as we go. It's a good time to call for topics. We've got a few things we want to chat about, but we can always add to the list. So if you have things you want to talk about, please do. In general, on the Friday calls, these community meetings, the agendas are super varied. A lot of times we talk about external things happening in this general technology ecosystem. Sometimes we have demos from partners. Sometimes we have a lot of time. Hopefully we'll have some demos from some of you today. And so, yeah, so this agenda is slightly different from some of the other meetings, but with that, it's nice to have some new folks this week. There's in a good way, there's a longer list of names here than we should prattle off. Some of these are familiar. Some of these are familiar names. Next thing is that, it is just a set of announcements, and then we'll get into some specific topics. One announcement is that I think most of you are familiar with the CNCF, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. It's the foundation that has amassed most of the projects that a lot of the technologies that we focus on. For myself personally, I've spent now I'm recognizing that I'm wearing a CNCF t-shirt. So, but I spent a lot of time there, and one of the things that I'm involved in is the CNCF SIG Network, which is a special interest group that focuses on, a lot of the projects that are of interest. So all of the traffic-related and network-related and service mesh-related projects. So Linkerd, Envoy, gRPC, Core DNS, NATS, Kuma, Network Service Mesh. I'm missing 2, BFE and others. Soon Ambassador, if you're familiar with Ambassador, the proxy. It's currently going through due diligence to be an incubation level project. So the reason we're talking about this is because it's highly relevant to our field of focus here. It's also because, well, of 2 of the projects that each of you are directly advancing, the largest one is Meshery, and it has long been the intention that that we would donate Meshery to the CNCF, and so we're pretty much ready. I mean, as a project, like we're pretty well there, and there is a write-up proposal, or a write-up of the proposal to donate Meshery to the CNCF. It's a little bit of an older draft that needs to be updated. And actually the procedure by which projects are donated to the sandbox level has shifted some in the time that we wrote that original draft. Anyway, suffice to say, I think we're about ready. And actually, it's an interesting thing that one of our other projects, the ServiceMesh Performance specification, it too is probably best suited and will probably have the most impact on the world if it's within the CNCF. Meshery is the canonical implementation of this specification. So I actually brought up this topic not necessarily to talk about these 2 things, which are true, but I was going to talk about this a little bit. So if we go back to our meeting minutes, the quick note here is that within context of SIG Network, which covers a lot of projects, covers has a broad charter, that will be spinning up a working group within there. And we just decided yesterday that working group will just go ahead and meet at the same times that the CNCF, basically this working group will just hold this working group inside this same meeting. So on the same days, the same times, all of you are welcome to come, sit quietly or be very vocal, whatever you like. But but this deck that's linked here, take a look through it. And these are the topics that we'll be talking about. You'll recognize a few of the topics. Oh, this is interesting. Has anyone ever seen this? Whoops. I guess I've never, hold on. How did that, open preview. Okay, this is embarrassing. I suspect everyone else has seen this before, but not me. So anyway, you'll notice that the projects that some of you are working on are going to be topics that we'll be talking about and advancing through there. So you may well find that it really is an interesting thing. The one topic that isn't called out in this deck is that we would like to begin to document some service mesh patterns, some patterns of deployment, some things that really some things that we're gonna well, probably write a book about and publish. And so actually there's an opportunity for those that are interested to participate in that book. Get your name inside of the book. All right, moving on. The next topic that was related to, so if you have questions or interests or think, come ping me and we'll, the next topic is, for my part, I'm headed off to lunch in a couple hours with the general manager of the Linux Foundation for the area of training. And we've had long conversations about service mesh things. And one of those is, if you're familiar with the CKA, the Certified Kubernetes Administrator, and the CKAD, we'll be, discussing and maybe forming some plans around a ServiceMesh certification. So that's good. I'll bring back news and sort of a description of if there's an opportunity for folks, if we do go forward there, if there's an opportunity for any of you to participate to the extent that you do or want to. And then last announcement, Shriti, do you want to talk about this? And is Shriti with us? She is. Twice.
Hey, is it
Yep.
still valid? Yeah. So we have two new blog posts up on the Layer5 blog. One is, I'm sure everybody knows Nupur by now. A wonderful meshmate, a long-standing contributor. Her experience post is currently up on the Layer5 blog. The link is available in the meeting minutes. Another post that we have up is Sudeep Batra's take on Istio patterns for multi-tenancy. Do give it a read. It's a wonderful and summarized reading on the topic. And if anybody else is willing to, just type up an article or pitch an article, please do ping me. I'll help you get started.
Beautiful. All right. And then let's switch into a couple of topics to go through. By the way, part of my goal of the regular meetings that we have is to figure out how to work my way out of being the consistent voice, to seek out some others that want to shepherd these calls a little bit. So maybe rather than talk about open service mesh, because I think I have a lot of things to say there, maybe we can skip that, give my voice a rest, and maybe talk about SMI conformance. Any of the participants on the call want to chat through this? Tell people about kind of the recent happenings?
Lee, are you talking about OSM?
Well, I was going to skip. Yes, no, I'm going to skip that, and then I'm going to see if Abhishek is on the phone and ask him to tell people about all of the advancements on SMI conformance. Kind of how it was demoed this week. What happened?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yep. There we go.
Cool. Sure. So we just had a demo with one of the product managers in Microsoft. So the SMI conformance tool is basically a tool that validates if your service mesh is conformant, as in if it is compatible with the SMI. So we had a live demo recently, and it was a beta version, yet it worked perfectly. Right now, not all the service mesh are much conformant with the SMI, but sure. So it is, this particular tool is valid for any sort of service mesh, and yeah, I guess this is pretty much in a beta state right now, and we are looking forward. It's under active development.
And so the product manager at Microsoft that Abhishek and Kanishkar and Naveen and Kush were demonstrating this capability to, he's the product manager for Open Service Mesh, actually, for OSM, the one that was announced this week. And Microsoft's quite excited about the SMI conformance tool. That team at Microsoft is the same team that is responsible for Open Service Mesh, they're also the same team that's responsible for SMI. And so, you know, I think they're pretty, I think giddy is the right word to describe the excitement that they have around this utility. I think they would very much so like for Open Service Mesh to be the first, well, or the first or the best or the most validated or the first to sort of announce conformance, official of, you know, conformance with the SMI spec. And so that's fantastic. So there's excitement. I think Microsoft is going to come, probably end up assisting a little bit with the tool. And second to that, part of being able to run SMI conformance tests against a particular service mesh is, part of being able to do that requires a Meshery adapter for that service mesh. So the service mesh that they're, you know, that they're interested in, that they're working on right now is Open Service Mesh. And so they are fairly excited, I think, to get the adapter for Open Service Mesh going. There's a nascent repository. There's kind of, we take the Meshery adapter template and spit out a new instance of it. We have compiling code that doesn't do anything just yet. But so hopefully in the next week or two, we'll have some engagement from a Microsoft engineer or two. We'll be tidying up the SMI conformance tool, and well, and we'll begin to, Meshery will begin to be the cataloger or the officiator of the sanctified conformance tests. Some of this I recognize as abstract for some of you. For others of you, it's you know, right in your field of focus. One thing that I'll talk about to maybe help make part of this more real, I guess maybe two things. One is that if you're like, if you're still trying to understand what this effort is about and its importance, the quick analogy to make is that there's a project you might know of, and you might not. It's called Sonaboy. This project was from Heptio that was acquired by VMware a little while ago. Sonaboy is a utility for conformance testing, very similar to what we're just, I mean, it's the same thing as to what we're talking about right now. It's conformance testing for Kubernetes. And so this is the tool that the CNCF uses and then the Kubernetes project uses to verify that the 90-something Kubernetes distros that are out, you know, floating around in the world are in fact actually Kubernetes and adhere to Kubernetes interfaces, and then earn the right to wear the Kubernetes logo. So if you see a project that displays the certified Kubernetes logo, then that's what, you know, that's coming from Sonaboy. And so in a very similar fashion, as we tie off SMI conform this project here, what is most likely to come around is that Meshery will be the tool that officiates whether or not a given service mesh has the right to wear the SMI logo, the SMI. So that's exciting. I think that's pretty neat. It's as much as I would have hoped for the efforts that, you know, Kanishkar and Naveen, Abhishek and Kush have given to that. So that also dovetails and kind of brings us into the next that other topic around Open Service Mesh, which for the most part I think we've covered and talked about. There's always commentary and things to give about another mesh being out there. I'm going to save that type of commentary for the end in case we want to have that chat. Instead, let's go to so before we move on, any other comments or questions on SMI conformance? last point from me on this, not only is it exciting to see the work that many of you have put into it, to see it be used and very happily accepted. It's also it also positions Meshery in a great way. Meshery becomes the tool that all service meshes that want to participate in SMI will need to run in order to validate. And when they do, it's and Abhishek and Naveen and Kanisha, those that are still continue to be involved in this tool, that we do need to take the next step and expose the ability to invoke SMI conformance tests from the Meshery CTL, from the command line. And that's important because in order for the other service meshes that want to run this suite of conformance tests, they're most likely to do it through their build and release process. So as they run their continuous integration pipeline, Istio and others, Kuma and the rest, are most likely to take Meshery as a tool, build it into their CI workflow, have it perform the conformance tests just as part of their process. It's a great place for Meshery to be sitting, in part because as we work on the service mesh performance specification, which I think I was alluding. I lost the browser for a second, but the service mesh performance specification, that too will be, testing the performance of each mesh is something that we consider each of the service meshes will want to do as part of their build and release process as well. So each mesh will be doubly enticed to run Meshery and to be putting out reports. And so one report for performance, one report for SMI conformance. So I'm so stoked about that. Okay, next topic is an adapter for Kuma. Tinkai and Abhishek, do you want to talk about this one?
Sure. So basically, we've worked on an adapter for Kuma, which is again in the beta state currently. We've done with the foundation of the adapter, basically the installation, and we brought up the service mesh up and running in the cluster, but there are a lot of other features that is yet to be implemented. But yeah, we are still actively working on it, me and Tinkai.
So very good. So there are a number of, for all the rest of you here that aren't working on the adapter directly, there is certainly an opportunity for you to help in this process. So Kuma is another service mesh, and the state of, we track Meshery adapters and their status in a few different places. So one of those places is on meshery.io. Here's a list of the 6 adapters that we currently support and consider functional. One of those is in a beta state. The other 4 are really like, essentially non-functional. Maybe they work, maybe they don't, but they're in an alpha state. So with the work that Abhishek and Tinkai are doing on the Kuma adapter, it's time to promote the Kuma adapter from alpha to beta. So there's an update needed on Meshery.io. There's an open issue out there for anyone who wants to do that on Meshery.io. That would be very nice. We also kind of track and promote Meshery and its adapters, really that same table on Layer5.io. So I believe that there's an open issue out there for that if anyone can promote it to beta. And lastly, there's one other place, but it's in the Meshery documentation itself. So Kuma is listed here. We say that it's in an alpha state, but as of this week, like as of yesterday, actually, the adapter is now moved into, we need to update this page to talk about the fact that it's in an alpha state or beta state. And so Yep. So there are any number of you that might be interested in doing that. That would be helpful. Along the same lines as what we just talked about updating the status of adapters, is the fact that we are going to be making an open service mesh adapter. An open service mesh, and the fact that Meshery will have an adapter for it, that is yet to be listed here. So there are a number of issues open to update, to add open service mesh here and on the other two sites that we just looked at. So yeah, so if you're looking for an issue, please grab those. Any comments on the Meshery adapter for Kuma? Maybe just one other from me, and then we'll move on. And that is that if you take a look at the Meshery's architecture, I think there's about 3 slides or so that sort of outline the architecture of Meshery as it is currently. In many respects, it's fairly simple. Like the architecture is really kind of 2 components: Meshery server, which runs not only the Go code that is the back end of Meshery, it also, in that same container and in that same binary, we also compile and include Meshery's front end. So the server and front end today, the deployment model is that they're both in the same container. That can be split out. That's fine. We haven't had a user come to request that yet, but that would be fine. So today they're in the same container. And then what you get when you deploy Meshery, at least by default, what you get is each of the currently functioning adapters. And so about 6 other containers. And now I forget why I brought that. What were we talking about? We're talking about the adapt. Oh yeah. And so as we bring forth more adapters, the way in which the architecture of the adapters was initially done, it was, well, there was a bit of repeating ourselves. There was a bit of code. There's a bit of code that's like the same code in this adapter and in this adapter and in this adapter. And if anyone's familiar with dry, the principle of like do not repeat yourself, we're violating that principle in the current design. And so there's some work that's been done to create essentially a common adapter library. So there's a common set of features that each adapter needs to do. And we don't need to repeat that code across each of the adapters. We can centralize that into a common adapter library and import that package into each of the other adapters. So Michael, as you consider a bit of a bit of time or on the console adapter, Abhishek and Tinkai, and there's a few others, Asuko and others that are good to engage with. I think Abhishek is considering establishing a bit of a standing meeting, maybe once every couple weeks or so, or to help as we go to refactor these adapters and as we go to stop repeating ourselves. Because, for example, if we go to support deploying console through Helm, well, we also deploy other service meshes through Helm, and that same logic is can be centralized. So, any comments on that? Okay, well, that's the Kuma adapter. All right. Speaking of all of the service meshes out there, Nikhil, do you want to talk about this next item?
Yeah, is my
We heard you for just a second. And then as Nikhil works through the audio challenges, Nikhil, are you in a place in which you might be able to demo what this new version of the landscape looks like? If not, I can.
The Netlify link will be there to demo.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah, thank you. Kush, do you want to talk about the landscape and the thing that we're doing next with it? Oh, okay. Okay.
I don't know much about the work done here.
Okay.
I won't be the right person to talk about it.
Okay, fair enough. I figured like, yeah, Nikhil, go ahead.
Is my voice better by any chance?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Good. So yeah, I will be sharing my screen.
Okay.
So yeah. So this is currently the landscape page on the Layer5.io site that we're using to display various service meshes and their functionalities and the other tools that they use on the page itself. All of them are, we have a table to represent them all, which is in fact sortable depending upon the name or any other field that we have in the column. So basically it was a bit of refactoring was needed, and it was being done before it by Ayush and Shivam, I guess. So my task was just to merge this existing landscape, the new landscape, into the existing one. So I basically merged the old branch feature-spectrum to the current one and close the changes. And this is the new landscape page, which is all the meshes depending upon its various capabilities and functionalities. So yeah, a few of the data was missing, like the description and the link for all of them. But as much as I could find, I have updated them as per my knowledge. I am not sure if it's wrong or right or wrong. And yeah, I have a question. I will come to that later. So another feature that I've updated in this part was currently in the current site, if we sort a table ascending or descending order, we don't see. We should know means it's ascending or descending by an indication. So I just added a small arrow, which could be useful for people to know in which way the column or the table is sorted depending on which way, whether it's ascending or descending, depending on which column. So it's just a most optimized solution which I could develop, and it's automatically playing all the tables by making changes in just one function. And we have the updated table with all of them. And we can sort it using any of the columns. That is. So yeah, just one question I had, that if this part that we're using, is it complete or it should look like this to Leanne? This part where we have all the images.
Yeah, it's actually incomplete, and so hopefully everyone is getting a sense of what's happening here. Is that we've had the current version of the landscape for a long time, and it has all kinds of factoids. It's an index of information, and it's a lot of information. But I think for most, I know for me, when I go look at it, it's good information, but I don't really know necessarily what it's telling me. It's not screaming out answers to me. And so we consider that we need to refactor this to one of the ways to make it more helpful to people is to, well, have it be a little opinionated, maybe is the right way of saying it. we've held off on doing this. It's been actually about a year since we kind of refactored this originally. And we've held off on finalizing it and publishing it because, well, because if you're a maker of a service mesh and you see that your service mesh lies on a comparative spectrum, like the ones that you see here, the one that says convenience, that's at the bottom, we will update this and it will say something like convenience on one hand, or convenient, and on the other end of the spectrum, it will say powerful. Or it would say something like easy on one side and powerful on the next. Simple and powerful. Okay, simple and powerful. That's a better. And then what we'll do is we'll take each of the service meshes and lay them out across the spectrum, saying this one is the most powerful mesh that there is today. And according to that spectrum, to that linear line, not only is it the most powerful, it's also the most difficult. It's not the same, or like, anyway, we're going to lay out these spectrums so that as people come and they say, well, I just need something really easy. I was just looking for some additional observability or whatever they were looking for. Which one should I use? Like, that's a question that thousands of people have had already, and many hundreds of thousands will have over the next 6 years or 7 or however long. And so we wanted to get it right, in part because we're, Layer 5 as a community and as a focus, we're a friend to every mesh. And so saying that one is more powerful than the next, it can be a little sensitive, or saying that one, and so as we lay this out, the thing that we've done for like the last year and something is now, well, I'll interrupt myself and say, like, what you're looking at right now is you're seeing some projects that those projects, they're not service meshes. Those are container network drivers. So that's just old data. The data here is bad and needs to be cleaned up. But the comparative spectrums is what Nikhil is showing off, that we'll be taking all the data that we have and presenting it differently, hopefully in a more consumable and useful way. Well, shoot, I don't know. This happened to me twice on this call. I think I read a message and then I lose my train of thought. And anyway, for those of you who have a perspective about like what comparisons should be made, like what would be helpful when you're trying to figure out, hey, should I use Istio? Should I use Linkerd? Should I use Kuma, or should I use Open Network Service Mesh? How do I compare those, and what do I know is important to me? Well, I'll say a few things. One, maybe it's important to you which one is SMI conformant. So the tool that the team has been working on here, the results, you can see a table that has the SMI logo on it right now. That table will be wiped out and we'll present it in a much more rich way. And first of all, there's more than 4 service meshes that are SMI conformant. And so not only will Meshery be the official tool for performing those validations, but this page will also be, it's already referenced quite a bit, but it'll be even more referenced and hopefully more helpful. And so if anyone has insight or just maybe you have zero insight about service meshes, which was me not too long ago, then you might still have something to add here, because you might have questions in your mind like hey, basically questions like, which one should I use? This is me, this is what I'm good at, this is my team, or this is my workload, or I know this language, or it's important to me who governs the project, or it's important to me how well supported it is, or if I can purchase a license for it and buy support for it, or like any litany of factors that play into someone's decision-making process. Well, we should be speaking to those, and some of that's functional, like in a hard technical way. Does the Octarine service mesh support traffic management of HTTP2? Like, hey, that's a hard, cold, feature. the thing that we've done over the last year is that the vast majority of the data that's in here, we've reached out and talked to each of these teams, and they have come over and contributed to this data. They are the ones that are self-representing their own project. We wouldn't want to get it wrong. They know it better than we do. And so that's a great thing. It's a lot of work to interact with all of them, but it's a fantastic thing to have built, because hopefully we're not making an arse out of ourselves or out of them by misrepresenting them. They're in control of what's being represented. And so right now we're talking about open service mesh that was announced this week. That team, we have an ask out to that team to come update the landscape. So as we do, and as we look to put forth those spectrums, if anyone has thoughts on what should be compared, speak up, because it's time to make this a lot more useful. As a matter of fact, yesterday, the executive director of the CNCF was pointing, well, it was actually the current executive director of the CNCF and the former executive director of the CNCF, both pointing people to this landscape, which is, I gotta say, it really says something, because Nikhil, if you were to go open up a new browser tab and go to l.cncf.io, the CNCF, and by the way, about 4 years ago, I helped not only create part of this landscape, but also just also helped figure out what categories and things that should go in here. And I say that because just to say that I have that this has been worked on for a long time as well, and is important to those directors of the CNCF. And yet, even though they have this one that's clearly referenced way more than ours, and is a lot more useful, I think, than ours, because the one that we have is ServiceMesh specific and goes a bit deeper, is something of a sub landscape, if you will. They're in fact referring people to it, which I consider it is a testament to the efforts that many of you have given. Cool. All right. So that's that topic. If anybody else has comments, Nikhil, if you have input there into what you think it should look like, please see Nikhil. Or if you have feedback on what you think these spectrums should be, please see Nikhil, or I'd be interested as well.
The landscape from CNCF side is a great inspiration to the design.
Yeah, it really is. It's an interesting, the landscape from the CNCF is, well, one, Meshery is on there, when we're all proud of that. But two, oh, wow. I forgot our next goal is actually to have SMPS be up there. The requirement for a project to go onto the CNCF landscape there's actually two requirements, but there's really only one that's worth speaking about. And it's the fact that any given project has to have at least 300 stars. So for SMPS, we're a little ways away from that. Although really, without having done much marketing, or the project is getting a few. Tell your friends, come star this thing. I'd love for your work to be in the CNCF. I really do get excited. And I really do think that this is true. All of you that have, whether you've committed code or not, because really, like, code is half the battle, a third of the battle, whatever. Like, the fact that you're showing up here, providing input, encouraging others, providing feedback, whatever you're doing, you're a part of these projects. I really hope that you take pride in their accolades, and whether that's when they go into the CNCF landscape or whatever that is, those stars are your stars too, is what I'm trying to say. Okay. All right, we're about at the top of the hour. I think there's just two last, more or less, announcements, or there are things to talk about. Is Ishida on the call? She was going to talk about this. I don't think she is. So just briefly, Ishida was highlighting earlier this week that she was able to retain I think a free pass, if I remember, to this event. And so she's excited to attend. And she was mentioning it to me, and I thought that, like, hey, this is a great thing to mention in the community call here. That others, I don't know, I haven't looked if it, what the price is, or if they have a free tier. Maybe they don't. But she was gonna call it out and then say. And so, so maybe if you don't attend but you're interested in it, Ishida Kumar will be attending, and so we could get some notes from her, or ask her about it. So last item, I think, which is that as of, I think this ends today. Speaking of free tickets, we are giving a couple of talks at KubeCon, and KubeCon right now has a free pass for the keynotes and for the expo hall. I don't think that those are going to get you in. I think the talks that we give are under the free pass or the full event pass. You'll be able to watch all those talks, I think, after the fact anyway. So if you want to go, I would go grab a free expo hall pass. And the full event, actually, they've done all right. They've done all right with the price. Like it's a good price. Okay, anybody have anything else for today?
Yeah, I do. I think Siam talked about he talked about an idea about the stars, but I think he's here, and if he would, he can make the idea known to everybody here. So I think he's trying to speak now.
Yes, sure. Thanks for reminding me. I just talked about it this Monday with Lee. So it's a simple idea that we have a Slack channel dedicated for us. And once a new member is signing out of a Slack channel, so we have giving them an email. So I kind of know that if we have an opportunity to give them a chance so they can restore our repo, just clicking out the button in the email section, we have some label kind of, or you want to store our repos or that. Once you have signed in for the yes button, we can automatically store all of our repo just on clicking up the yes button in the email. So I think kind of a good if we do that in an email, because emails are the people are frequently checking every day. And there are a few communities that I have visited in quite a while. They have done that approach as well. So I kind of don't know if we can do that approach in our Meshery store repo or not. If we can do that, that could be a fine for our new users. So it's good. It's going to be a very less tedious task. You just have not to go to. If they have already authenticated the GitHub account, they can easily do that in the email section. If it doesn't authenticate with the GitHub account, we can go them back to the GitHub account, and once they have logged in back, we can easily trigger out an event, and we can make our all repo star, kind of using the email section for everything. That I've talked about with Lee as well. I think I'd want to do that as some kind of what I do that I am speaking here, just kind of a demo or starting that. I have asked in the Slack channel as well. I want to do that in a separate meeting, so it's kind of a good. It's kind of some very important note. So that's a little intro about what I have an idea about it.
Oh, okay, so it's fine. We can do like the separate meeting. Maybe after the call, I'll give you a chat. Then we talk about it.
Yes, sure. Sure.
Okay. Also, I think we have a new member join us today. the meeting. That's Alabo Briggs. Yeah. So you could do a warm welcome.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I think I've spoken with Ruth and some other guys here already. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here.
Nice. Alabo, very good to have you. Whereabouts are you calling in from?
I'm calling from Nigeria.
Okay. Yeah, I tried to make a horrible joke the other day because one of our longest standing community members that is in Africa, Fonji, I'm pretty sure he lives in Cameroon. And then there's been a couple of others that were outside of Nigeria, but then all of a sudden we began to have a lot of Nigerians, and so I was trying to make a horrible joke about where people were from, and it didn't work. And so anyway, very nice to have you. If all of you haven't met Fonji, I'll remind me. I'd love to introduce him to you. He's fair warning. He is from Cameroon, so just a warning, I guess.
All right. I'll be available on this Slack group chat.
Nice, good deal.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. It's very nice to have Alabo. Ruth, did we cover all the items that you had?
Yeah, we did. I'll just have a chat with Siam later.
Okay, fair enough. Anyone have anything else for today? All right. Same time next week. Have a great weekend, everyone. See you soon.
Yeah, you too.
Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.
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 Bye.